Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome! And if you're joining us from our previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. Last year, I was waist deep in my American Dad reviews that you can still check out right now. But, a year later, I thought it would be fun to look back at the over 300 episodes of peak dadness and go season by season and figure out my top 5 episodes from each one. Season 1 is a bit of a cheat since it's basically 2 seasons smashed into one, but what are some of the best episodes of the freshman season of one of the best animated series ever made? Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there? So buckle up, pour a Roy Rogers, and enjoy! Number 5, Star Trek. Yeah, number 5 is Star Trek. Right out the gate with the Sunset Boulevard reference, where it's all sort of told through a flashback as he's floating in his pool made of cherry jello. It's great. It's honestly one of the great signs of what American Dad would be. This is when it's still being directly compared to Family Guy. This is when it still has those like Family Guy-esque moments, but you're really starting to see that sort of subversive comedy shine through. You know, when Stan goes to see the teacher and he just starts freaking out on all of them, that's great. When Steve makes Roger into this drunk, sad alien, that's amazing. Everything about this is an episode that I just genuinely enjoy. There isn't a part of it where I'm like, oh, well, this could have been done a little bit better. You got the first introduction of Captain Monty. You've got the publisher, played by Bryan Cranston. It's just, it's good. It's just good. I mean, it hits all the notes it needs to hit, and it also shows that it's for a smarter audience. Not in a Rick and Morty, you need to understand quantum physics to get this joke kind of way, just in a, they know the audience is smarter than that, and they want them to get these references to appreciate this show, and it works. Yeah. Star Trek is an absolutely solid episode that if you're in any season 1 watch party, you need to include it in your watch list. It is one of the strongest of that entire like 24 episode run. Number 4, All About Steve. Yeah, it's another Steve episode. The Steve episodes are some of my favorites. You'll find that out in season 2 too. All About Steve is just another great banger. I love that it's sort of our first big, hangout with Stan and Steve and Steve's friends, Toshi, Barry, Snot, and it's him having to deal with his loser nerd son. Something that we will see revisited time and time again. I love that Dan Weber's in it. I love that the Elven language is just like hiragana, the Japanese alphabet, just called, fairy Elven language. It's, again, we still see those hints of Family Guy writing style in this episode. There's still, you can't ignore it, but there's so much there that still feels unique to the show. Like Haley having Roger come to a sci-fi convention because he would be more at home there and he can walk around without having to be in a disguise. That's cool. That's a neat idea that is working with what you have to elevate the episode as a whole. We also get more of the CIA, which is great, and it really starts to establish the CIA boys as recurring characters worth paying attention to, and it's just, I really like All About Steve. The joke delivery is really great. Like, we see Scott Grimes really falling into who Steve is. Seth MacFarlane is even figuring out Stan, which is a wild thing to see, and you even get just, again, really great stuff with more Snot, Barry, and Toshi to appreciate. There's just nothing in All About Steve that I would change, and I keep watching it on a loop over and over again. It is great early American Dad. Number 3, Stanny, Get Your Gun. I think this episode is the real division between what Family Guy would end up being and what American Dad would sort of pivot to be its own thing. Not only is Stan Get Your Gun just a really solid Stan and Haley episode that features, you know, the NRA and everything like that, or I'm sorry, the NGA, but it also gives us a lot to really, really appreciate. The satire is super sharp, the jokes are super quick, and it's honestly one of the best Haley and Stan stories to this day. The best equivalent I can think of to this would be something like Homer getting Lisa her first sex, hating how it sounds, but knowing it brings her joy. And even that isn't doing the episode justice. It isn't doing that conflict justice, because it's a conflict that really only American Dad can establish and then resolve in a believable way. On top of that, you have the B story where Roger pretends Steve's adopted just because he ate his cookie. Like, just, you snooze, you lose. You snooze, you lose, huh? Like, that's great. That's amazing. All of this is fantastic. Stan Get Your Gun has great musical numbers. It's got great voice acting. Again, the writing is super, super sharp, and it really shows that American Dad was never really trying to be derivative of that Family Guy style. And even from the, just right out the gate, they are trying to show you that it is trying to be its own thing. And Stan Get Your Gun is trying so hard.
Number 2, Bullocks to Stan.
Like, I know I talked about Star Trek and all about Steve being, like, really good American Dad. But then you get to Bullocks to Stan. And Bullocks to Stan might very well be in my, like, top 10 of all American Dad episodes of all time. There is just something so special about it. Not only is it a Jeff episode, which is only like the one this entire season, but the B story is fantastic, with Roger and Steve getting Dick Cheney's BlackBerry, which is wild. Like, you could see it being a Stewie and Brian B story, right? But it's handled in such a way that you're like, nah, this is a way that only Steve and Roger could handle this. This is good American Dad good stuff. You have just absolute dynamite performances by Seth MacFarlane and by Patrick Stewart, who is just bringing his all to Avery Bullock, making him that enchantingly weird CIA director that he would be for the next, 300 plus episodes. Bullocks to Stan, I mean, not only does it have that, it's also got Klaus's, like, DVD commentary. It's got some of the best jokes of the entire season. It is easily one of the best examples of what modern American Dad would be from the very first season. If you want, and I've said this before, but if you want someone to get started on American Dad, show them Bullocks to Stan. Show them what the show was trying to do all those years ago and see why it's been around for so long. Bullocks to Stan is a testament to what creative writing and adult animation can do. It is how you make your show stand out while also presenting something just genuinely hysterical. I adore Bullocks to Stan, and I think it is a celebration of every facet of what American Dad stands for.
Number 1,
Pilot. Look, I'll say it. First episode, best episode. Even when I revisit the show after all these years, the pilot is just perfect. It's everything it needed to be for, like, 2000s era adult animated comedy. It's your greatest hits of what you can expect from the show. You've got great vocal talent. Sure, people are still figuring out their characters. D. Bradley Baker doesn't know what he's doing with Klaus. Scott Grimes is still figuring out Steve, and he's a weird noodle boy. But there's just so much charm to the pilot. There's so many quotable jokes that go on and be recurred throughout the rest of the series. I don't know. There's something special to how Family Guy-esque the pilot is. It's showing you that, yeah, we know how to make you laugh. You laughed at Family Guy, now laugh at American Dad. We promise it's gonna get even better than this. And what we got wasn't bad. When Steve takes over the school and goes power mad, that's something we get referenced later on. You get the introduction of Steve's crew, and you have Stan trying to live vicariously through Steve. Again, there's all these elements that will be played up even more. You have Francine being this wild caricature of the average cartoon wife. Francine has so much going on. She makes Marge and Lois just look boring. This is a perfect pitch for giving me American Dad. if I watch the pilot and then go into any other episode of American Dad, I know instantly who each of the characters are, what their motivations are, and why I should be laughing. The pilot is perfect American Dad. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 1. Any you agree on, disagree on? What are your top 5 episodes of Season 1? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends we're out here. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Stay strong, never stop being you, and I'll see you all in our top 5 of Season 2.